Hi everyone, my name is Kaiah Guthridge, and today I'm going to discuss with you all why primary education systems should make it mandatory to include social media education into their curriculums. Primary schools should make it a point to educate and prepare children for proper social media uses and best practices inside and outside of school. Around the age of 11 to 13, parents usually grant their child with their first ever cell phones, and that child is then launched into the world of social media. This touches close to home to me, and it's an important topic to me because at the age of 13, I received my first ever touchscreen cell phone, and I was launched into a whole new world of communication and social media through one small BlackBerry kickflip that offered me all of the social media apps, platforms, and online platforms that I could think of. Social media for me, it started off as a way for me to connect with my friends and my family, as well as just share aspects of my life that I found of importance. When I was given my first ever cell phone and created my first ever social media accounts, my first ever social media account, I remember being Instagram. I was oblivious to the negative influences that Instagram and social media would eventually have on my life as well as the lives of others. The troubles that were caused by my social media activity ended up affecting my relationships, my mental health, as well as my productivity. This brings me to my first argument. Primary education institutions should include social media education in their curriculum because of the impact that social media has on children's relationships with one another as well as themselves. 88% of social media using children have reported that they've seen some sort of hateful, cruel, or mean comments or posts directed towards someone or them online or on social media. This is because in education systems, children are not taught how to communicate in a way that is not offensive or harmful to one another. It is more usually, especially in primary education institutions, that children develop most arguments and disagreements while in school, and then in this sense they carry over into social media outside of school. This can result into a very big issue that has been happening in these primary education institutions called cyberbullying. And cyberbullying can then be harmful to a child's mental health, and even a child's bodily health and bodily functions. Children then become wrapped up in their social media presence and do not know ways to separate their online social lives from their everyday lives. This brings me to my next point. Social media has a huge effect on the way that children view and assess themselves. According to Michigan Virtual, social media has been altering the way that students seek approval through comparisons. Children have increased body image and self-esteem issues through looking through these comparisons and by the influence of the feedback given and received on social media. This can be as simple as a student or child being exposed to an influencer or a public figure on Instagram who perceives themselves in a way that is attractive to a large pool or large group of people. That child then sees that that person is gaining attention in some way. Then a child feels that they are not perceiving themselves on social media in such a way that they are gaining the positive attention that this influencer or public figure is. It can be extremely hard for a student to figure out a way to constructively handle these situations that can also just lead to a child damaging their future and their reputation by what they post online. This then brings me to my third argument that discusses how social media education can help students protect themselves and their futures. In 2011, the Federal Trade Commission made it possible for employers and colleges and institutions to do social media screenings. A lot of times, children are directly and drastically affected by the things that they've posted online earlier in life, when later in life they go to search for opportunities that are then not offered to them based on their past social media presence. As many of us know, the internet is forever. So whatever you post online, whether it is deleted in due time, it still can find a way to resurface. And employers in colleges and institutions, they have ways of doing social media screenings that were offered to them by the Federal Trade Commission that allow them to have that allow them to find these old and essentially damaging posts of that students had put out when they were not educated on social media practices. With that in mind, there's also a way that students can use social media for their advantage that most students have no idea of. This brings me to my final argument. Although there are many negatives to social media, there are also many benefits to educating children about the uses of social media. The National Association of Independent Schools found that social media provides a forum for intellectual passions and critical thinking. This is a great way to change the narrative and teach children of the ways to use social media to their advantage instead of their disadvantage. Despite all of the reasons listed that indicate the many reasons why social media education is so important and necessary for primary education institutions to include into their curriculums, education professionals still have voiced their opinions as to why they are completely opposed to the idea. The main reasons why education professionals are opposed to this idea is because of, one, it being a distraction, and two, it becoming unmanageable within their institution. I believe that the opposition is wrong and would feel less of a need to have control over their social media being a distraction if they were to allow social media more in their institutions. Students would feel less of a need to feel sneaky about using social media in school and would therefore lessen the urge to be distracted by social media when it's not permitted, because they know of times where it is permitted inside of their school. As for it being too difficult to manage, I believe that this could also allow teachers and other education professionals to be more aware of what's going on inside of their walls instead of in issues of social media occurring outside of school or within the school without their knowledge. With this being said, and in conclusion, primary education institutions should make it a point to include social media education into their curriculum. It's important to recognize that there are many benefits to the lives and futures of children that use social media and that social media can offer. Without the proper representation of social media practices in primary education institutions, children will continue to navigate the world of social media in any way that they please in an unproductive manner that can not only be harmful to others, but to themselves and their futures as well. Thank you.